All right, Shabbos, good evening. Let us begin. Today's daf is Hey Amud Aleph, and we are picking up Emeretz Hashem on Dalin Amud Beis. We left off Godol Mash Amar Belazar Bar Avina. So it is 2, 4, 6, 7 lines up from the bottom. Amar Belazar Bar Avina, Godol Mash Nemar B'Michal Yosem Mash Nemar B'Gavriel. What the Navi states about the Malach Michael is even greater than what the Navi states about the Malach Michael. How so? So the Gemara says, "The ilu b'Michael ksiv vayaf elai echa min asrafim." So we'll say by Michael, it says vayaf elai. One of the angels flew towards me. It says vayaf, one statement of flying. Vilu gabe Gavriel ksiv vayish Gavriel asher isi bechazon betchila moaf bayaf. So it uses a double lashon, almost as if to say that by Gavriel, it takes Gavriel longer to get to his desired destination than it does Michal. So apparently Michal moves faster than Gavriel. Okay, my masha the high achar Michal. How do you know the echad referred to over as Michal? So I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Remember again, Michal and Gavriel are like higher level malachim. Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara says, Asya echad. Gzer shava echad. Ksiv hacha. It says over here, Vaya'ef elai echad min hasrafim. Uksiv hasam v'hinei Michael echad hasarim harishonim ba la'azreini. Okay, so we'll say so. V'tana Michal ba'achas v'gavliya b'shtayim. Michal takes him one like flap of the wings, one step to get to where he needs to get to. Gavriel it's 2. Eliyahu ba'arba. Eliyahu Navi takes 4. U'malach hamavis b'shmona. So Malach HaMavis takes 8 steps to get to his desired destination. Ubeshas HaMagefa Achos, but at the time of a plague, right? In other words, at the time of a plague, the Malach HaMavis is given greater free reign, and therefore, again, he's able to get to where he needs to get to in one step. Incredible. Well, say, I just will point out that obviously all of these Gemaras have so many deeper levels of understanding. We're not quite doing it justice in the 22 minutes that we're learning together. But again, obviously, the goal over here is, especially on Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, when you have time for Chazar, to definitely be a bit more ma'ayin, definitely investigate into these Gemaras a little bit more. So there goes Zayt, we'll say beautiful Gemara. I'm Rabbi Shmuel Levi. Afapi shekara adam kriyas shema beis hakneses. Even though a person has said kriyas shema shul. So we'll say, what's the kriyas shema they're referring to over here? Kriyas shema of Arvis, of Ma'ariv. So even though a person has already said shema as part of Ma'ariv, nevertheless, mitzvah likroso amitaso. There's a mitzvah to recite Kriyas Shema al Amita, Kriyas Shema before you go to sleep. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi, my crow, it's the pasuk that tells us Kriyas Shema. Now remember again, Kriyas Shema al Amita is certainly not Daraisa, because remember again, Daraisa we have B'shach B'chav Kumecha. I have the nighttime Shema, which generally we discharge during Ma'ariv, or we repeat it again. And then there's morning Shema. Kriyas Shema al Amita, the nighttime Shema that we say before going to sleep, is another animal. It's another animal, something separate. So the Gemara says, so where does it come from? Where does the obligation come from? Mikra, Rigzu v'al techeto, Imru bilvavchem al mishkavchem v'domusela. So Rabbi Say, it says over here, literally, rigzu v'achtechato means literally like incite yourself. Get yourself excited. We'll discuss that in just a moment. Don't sin. Imru bilvavchem, say it in your hearts, al mishkavchem, on your bed. So here's a reference to this idea of reciting something in my heart while I'm on my bed. So Gemara says this is a reference to the nighttime, not the nighttime Shema, but the bedtime Shema. Kriyas Shema alamita. Amram Nachman says, top of Hay, 5a. Im Talmid Chacham who ain't sarich. We'll say if you're a Talmid, now we'll say, let me just point out something else. What is the role of Kriyas Shema alamita? The role of Kriyas Shema alamita is to protect us from nocturnal dangers. There's a concept when a person is asleep, right? So ultimately, again, they are in greater peril, in physical peril, spiritual peril. I'm not in full control of my body, not in full control of my neshama. And therefore, there are mazikim, nighttime in general. You know, it's actually interesting. Oh, well, we'll get to. Nighttime in general is associated with mazikim, with detrimental or harmful forces. Kriyas Shema Lamita is there to protect me from those harmful forces. Therefore, the Gemara says, a person is a Talmid Chacham, he doesn't have to say Kriyas Shema Alamita. Interesting. Why doesn't the Talmid Chacham have to say Kriyas Shema Alamita? So Rashi says over here, Sheragil b'mishnasa lachser al girsaso tamid daya bekach. A Talmid Chacham, we're assuming, is always reviewing his learning. So because his learning is always going on in his head, therefore what? the learning itself protects him. So because learning protects him, he doesn't need Kriyas Shema Alamita. Amar Abaye says, Af Tam Tzchacham Ibai Le'Leimer Chad Psugi Derachami. Tam Tzchacham should also say at least one verse of supplication before going to sleep. Kigon, Biyadcha Af Kidruchi, Padisa Osi Hashem Kel Emes. Quotes over here the pasuk from Tilim, Hashem, in your hand I give over my spirit. You have redeemed me, Hashem, the trustworthy God. I'm Rabbi Levi Bar Chama. As well say, by the way, we paskin, your Tam Tzchachim, ya Tam Tzchachim. Everyone says Kriyas Shema Al Hamita. The Gemara goes right. I'm Rabbi Levi Bar Chama, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. The Olam Yargiz Adam Tova Yetzer Hara. It was this incredible puzzle. What we're going to do over the course of the next Amud is, when the Gemara quotes the Psukim, we're not really going to be too ma'ayim. We're not going to go too in-depth into the Psukim themselves. Rather, we'll just try to isolate and focus on the lessons gleaned from the Psukim. So we'll say, this is an incredible Gemara. So Rabbi Levi Bar Chama of Reish Lakish, the Olam Yargiz Adam Yetzer Tova Yetzara. Now we'll say, now, what does this mean, Yargiz? Now remember, the Lashon of Ragaz is the Lashon of getting angry. Getting angry, like almost like to incite oneself. So the Gemara says a person should always almost rile up his Yetzer HaTov, his good inclination, over his Yetzer Hara, his evil inclination, his negative inclination. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Second line in Rashi, Yargiz Yetzer Tov, Shiyaseh Milchama Ima Yetzer Hara. This is incredible. What the Gemara is saying is, the internal battle of good versus evil that we each have to face, right? Because remember, if we're honest, each of us has desires, wants, proclivities, all different kinds of things, lusts, all these different things. So we have to fight. In other words, it's a battle. It's a battle against these things every single day. So the Gemara is telling me it's a battle. It's a battle. How does the Gemara frame that it's a battle? Li'olam yargiz adam yetzer tov yetzara. We'll say, if I think that I'm going to conquer the negative things in me just easily, without a fight, without anything, I'm mistaken. I'm mistaken. To overcome the internal evil, the internal negative, I shouldn't use the word evil, the internal negativity that's inside of me requires a war. Requires a battle, and I have to get myself ready to wage that battle. So we'll say if that works, great. Now, if what works? But we'll say some people just have the ability to self-motivate, right? In other words, that I say, you know what? I know it's broken. I know what's in a state of disrepair. Okay, I'm going to get it done. I self-motivate. That's it. Some people are like that. If you could self-motivate and, so to speak, incite your good inclination over your negative inclination, fantastic. Ve'im lav, we'll say, what happens if you can't self-motivate? Yasok b'Torah. Learn Torah. Torah helps to motivate a person to make particular life changes. Also, we know this. How do you feel, right, after you finish an Amud Berachos? How do you feel, right? Don't stay tired, right? How do you feel? You feel different. Anytime a person sits and learns, even if I am tired, I get up from the experience and I feel like a different person. Learning Torah girds us with strength to be able to do the things that sometimes we can't do on our own. So the highest level is to be able to self-inspire and to motivate yourself to take the necessary life actions. What if you can't self-inspire? I can't move myself on my own? Okay, learn Torah. Torah then will inspire you to make the necessary life changes. Shneimar imru bilvavchem im nitzchumutav. If that works, great. Vim lav yikra kriyas shema. If Torah doesn't work to motivate you, say Shema. In other words, accept upon yourself the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shne'emar, Al mishkavchem, im nitzchumutav. If that works, great. Ve'im lav, if it doesn't work, yiska liyom hamisa. Remind yourself of death. Right? They will say, what does death do? Death, it's interesting how sometimes death could be the greatest catalyst for change, right? Death, which is the antithesis of change, right? Once something dies, it can no longer change. Yet the knowledge that one day I'm going to die, and I do not know when that day is, that's often a motivation for change. So we'll say, so it's incredible. Here's what we know. I have to fix the stuff that's broken in me. Here's what else I know. What I know is matter, anything that is matter, right? What is the natural state of matter? Natural state of matter? To be at rest, right? Until matter is acted upon. So now how do I get myself to move myself in life? Right? So number one, the ideal is self-motivate. Self-motivate. If you can self-motivate, great. What if you can't self-motivate? Learn Torah. Torah will motivate you. That doesn't work? Shema. Recognize that you are answerable to a higher authority. That doesn't work? Death. remind myself that at the end of the day, one day I'm going to die. I'm going to take leave of this world. I'm going to have to give an accounting for how I spent every day of my life. And I don't want to be embarrassed when I give that accounting. I want to have a good accounting to give. An incredible Gemara, Rabbi say. Rabbi Shimon Lakish. My dear, what's the meaning of the pasuk? Ve'etne locha es luchos ha'even va'torah v'hamitzah asher kasavti lahorosam. So what do all of these things mean? Luchos, the luchos refer to Elo Aseres HaDibros. This refers ultimately again to the Ten Commandments. Torah, Zu Mikra, that refers to the Chumash. V'amitzvos, Zu Mishnah, that refers to Mishnah. Asher Kasavti, that I wrote. Elu Neviim Uksuvim. This refers to Nach, Neviim and Ksuvim. Lahorosam, that refers Zeu Talmud, that refers to Gemara. So we'll say, what does this teach me? Malamed Shekulam Nosnu LeMoshe Misinai. We'll say first of the widest lines. It teaches me that's when Moshe Rabbeinu Rabbi came down with the Torah, he didn't just come down with the Ten Commandments. Rather, what did he come down with? Everything. Now, just to be clear, it doesn't mean that Moshe Rabbeinu came down with this, like Maseches Berachos. Because remember, again, what we have here is filled with so much machlokes, so much dispute, because again, there were different opinions as to what the transmission was. But the idea is that when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, he had the entire body of Torah with him. The written law, the oral law, it was all there. All there. Incredible. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. Let's listen to this. Hakori kol hakori kriya Shema mitaso. If a person goes ahead and reads Shema on his bed. In other words, he says kriya Shema lamita. Ki'ilu oches charev shal shtei pios biyado. It's as if he's holding a double-bladed sword. In other words, kriya Shema lamita has the ability to protect a person like a double-bladed sword. Shene emar romamos al bigronom v'cheref pipios biadam. So the lashon of cheref pipios is a sword literally with two mouths, a two-bladed sword in his hand. My mash mamar azush v'yitim ravashi mereshet dinyana dichsev yalzu chasidim bekavod yiraninu al mishkavosam. So it speaks about again that the righteous will sing praise on their bed. Uksib asrei romamos al bigronom v'cheref pipios biadam. So essentially, when do the righteous sing praise on their bed? When they say kriya Shema lamita. When I say kriya Shema lamita, that's as powerful as holding a double-bladed sword. Incredible. Whoever says Shema when he's sleeping, not when he's sleeping, whoever says Shema before he goes to sleep, ultimately again the destructive forces leave him alone. Shene'emar u'bnei reshef yagbiu of. Ve'ein of ela Torah shene'emar hisif einecha bo ve'eineno. So it's actually interesting. The pasuk over here that the Gemara is quoting, speaking about Torah, hisif einecha bo ve'eineno means literally blink your eyes and it will be no longer. I'll say that's a reference to Torah. We know that a person could spend so much time acquiring Torah and then what? In just a moment, in just a blink of an eye, you could lose it all. How do you lose it all? A bad decision, a wrong turn in life. And somehow, we spoke about this last night also, all of the spirituality that one accumulates could simply dissipate through making one wrong turn in life. Ve'in reshef al yisurin shne'emar, mazei rav alo chamer reshef. Rabbi Yochanan, ha'afilu tinoko shaveis rabin yodin also. So Rabbi Yochanan says, everyone knows this. Even children know this idea. That if you go ahead and you recite Shema at night, that you save yourself from destructive forces. After all, again, because the pasuk Shene Emar, Vayomer im Shama tishma l'kol Hashem l'kecha, v'hayashar be'inav taseh, v'azant l'mitzvosav. So again, the pasuk says, if you will listen to the voice of Hashem your God, and you will do that which is right in His eyes, right? V'azant, and you listen to the mitzvos, v'shamarta kol chukav, and you listen, you observe all of His statutes. All of the afflictions that I visited upon Egypt, I will not visit upon you, for I am Hashem, your healer. Ella, we'll say rather, what does it mean? Whoever is able to learn Torah but doesn't do so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mevi alav yisurin mechuarin va'ochrin oso. Hashem brings on that person all types of terrible suffering, and they uproot him. Shene Emar, ne'alamti dumya cheshisi mitov ukuvi ne'achar ve'in tov ela Torah shene Emar ki lekach tov nasati lochem Torah siyat hazo. So we'll say this last line is very profound. That essentially what the Gemara is saying is like this: if a person has a good life, but they do not use that life to learn Torah to further spirituality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away their brachos. Meaning what? Why does Hashem give us blessing in life? I will say it's an interesting thing. This is why in general, right, we daven for parnasa, we daven for our livelihood, or we daven for bracha. We'll say when you daven for parnasa, what are you davening for? What are you davening for? That you should be wealthy for the sake of being wealthy? That I should be able to buy extra stuff, enjoy extra stuff? No. What am I really asking? See, what's the beauty of wealth? What's the beauty? This is not like a wealth ministry drush up here, right? Right. What's the beauty of wealth? The beauty of wealth is if you have it, you don't have to worry about many things in life. Now that I don't have to worry about money, what does that do? It frees me up to go ahead and focus on spirituality. That's the whole thing. That's why even when the Torah speaks out, for example, in Shema, if you will listen to my mitzvos, what does Hashem promise us? He doesn't promise us the world to come. What does He promise us? He promises us cattle and sheep and all different types, crops, all different things. Why is that the reward for spiritual service? It's not a reward. It's a spiritual facilitator. If I have money, let's say we know this, right? If a person is ever in a state of financial struggle, for most people, 95% financial struggle consumes you. Right? If I can't pay my bills, or I'm having a challenge, or I'm having this, that takes the entirety of my bandwidth. Mashen Kain, if I know, even if I'm not wealthy, but I know, Baruch Hashem, I can take care of my family, I can take care of my needs, right? I'm good. There's an inner tranquility that comes with that. Well, now that there's inner tranquility, so suddenly I have the ability to devote myself to spirituality. So the Baruch Hu says, if you have the inner tranquility because you have financial blessing, and you don't use that inner tranquility to further your spirituality, so does Kadosh Baruch Hu say, I'm taking back the bracha. There's no free lunches and no free brachas. Right? If you're not going to use the bracha to further your spirituality, then the truth is there's no need for you to have it. It's such a profound, I will say this is why in Judaism, it's important to know, in Judaism, we're not an ascetic religion. Right? Certain other religions preach that the only way to come close to God is like to swear off any material enjoyment or pleasure. Yet we are not an ascetic religion. Why? Because we understand, Kadosh Baruch Hu taught us that if you have material success, it just frees you to be able to focus on spiritual matters. That's why, again, we ask for parnasa. But once you have it, you have to then use the brand new inner tranquility in order to be able to further your spirituality. And if you don't, the Baruch Hu takes the bracha back. Incredible. Amar Rabbi Zera v'yitem Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. Bo re'ei shlo k'midas Kadosh Baruch Hu midas basar adam. See how Hashem is so different than man. In what sense? So listen to this. Midas basar adam mocher. Midas basar adam adam mocher chayfetz lechavero mocher atzuv velokeach samech. So when a person sells something to his fellow, so the seller is sad and the purchaser is happy. The seller is sad. Why? Because he had an item, now he no longer has it, and the purchaser is happy because he has a new item. Aval Kadosh Baruch Hu eino kain. Kadosh Baruch Hu is different. How so? This is so beautiful. Nasan lahem Torah liyisrael v'samach. Hashem had Torah. He gave it to Klal Yisrael. But he wasn't sad that he had to part with something that was so precious to him. He was happy. Shne'amar ki lekach tov nasati lachem torasi al tazovu. I've given you a good purchase, right? A good lekach, a good purchase. Do not forsake my Torah. So beautiful. Amar Ravi Timrav Chista Imron Adon Sheisur and Barna. I will say this is a profound. This already, I'm just not going to do it justice, but at least I will say, if you're using your own Gemara, just underline these lines or bend down the page and just go back to this on Shabbos because this is profound stuff. Imroa Adam Sheisur and Barna. If a person is suffering, a person has encountered difficult life situations, what should you do? Yifash shveish b'masav. Person should examine his deeds. Examine his deeds. Shne'emar nach besadrakinu v'nach kora v'nashuva al Hashem. Literally, again, we will search out our ways and we will investigate them and return to Hashem. Now, both say. Now, I want to be clear. The Gemara is not suggesting that every single time something bad happens, it's because of something bad that I did. Right? Just to be clear, we have a concept of tzaddik v'ralo. Bad things happen to good people. We know that. We know that. So we'll say, but what it means is like this. When difficult things happen to me in life, I don't know why they happen, but I have to use it as a wake-up call. So now that my life has been turned upside down or dramatically altered, okay, I need to introspect. I got to find what I have to fix. Now, does that mean I'm going to find the source for why things went wrong? No, I don't know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. I don't know why God does things, but here's what I'm going to do. See, I'll say sometimes even if you don't know why things happen, I still have an obligation to do something with the jarring circumstances. So I don't know why Hashem visited these circumstances upon me. But once they are here, it becomes like a life alarm clock. It wakes me up. I got to introspect. I got to figure out and see what's going on, what's misfiring, what's wrong. I'll identify something, fix something. Is that the thing, the reason? What? I don't know what the reasons are, but this is what I'm going to do with this experience. Incredible. So we're going to listen to this. Pishpesh v'lo matzah. But so let's say a person introspects and they find nothing broken. Wow. Okay, I will say, can you imagine that? Can you imagine like looking into your life and saying, nope, all good under the hood, right? Everything is fine. Nothing's broken. It's almost like startling. It's almost like startling that the Gemara even entertains that possibility that I guess there are people like this in the world who exist, that they introspect and they're like, no, all is good. So what happens if I introspect and all is good? So the Gemara says, Yitle b'bittul Torah. Then maybe again the adversity came about because a person negated the study of Torah. Shneimar, Ashrei hagever asher tiyasrenu ka, u'misorascha tilamdenu. V'imtala v'lo matzah. So we'll say, so what happens? What happens if a person says, no, but I investigated and I don't negate the study of Torah. So there's nothing broken. I don't negate the study of Torah, but yet there's still this suffering happening. So what do I do? So Gemara says, "Bi'adua she yisurin shel ava him shneimar ki es asher yahav Hashem yochiach." I will say this is incredible. The Gemara says, so what is it? It must be yisurin shel ava. I will say, what is yisurin shel ava? It means suffering visited upon a person as a display of divine love. It is the most theologically complicated concept we possess. That sometimes Hashem visits suffering upon us not as a punishment, chas v'shalom, but as a demonstration of immense love. What's the love in that? So we know the power of suffering is that suffering cleanses the individual. Suffering in this world cleanses one of sin. So sometimes the theology of it is that sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking to cleanse someone of their negative behaviors, of their sinful behaviors in this world, so that they'll have no baggage when they come to the world to come. So the suffering takes place. So the Gemara says, if you're suffering and you introspect and there's nothing broken and there's no bittul Torah, then again, rest assured that is Yisurin Sha'ava. And what I will say is, don't try this at home. What do I mean, don't try this at home? It's always a very dangerous thing to try to understand why things happen. But that being said, what the Gemara is giving us is a mechanism to deal with adversity. See, when you find yourself beset by difficult circumstances, you have two possibilities, right? Well, three possibilities. Possibility one is just give up. Possibility two is just spend your entire life lamenting it and wallowing in it. And possibility number three is, okay, do something with it. And that's the Gemara saying, do something with your suffering. Do something with your adversity. So what should I do? Introspect. When suffering happens, it means the life as I knew it is broken. So now this is an opportunity for me to look inside myself and to ask myself, what in me is broken? That's all. It's a springboard. That's all. It's a springboard, ultimately, again, for introspection. Don't lose yourself in it. Don't wallow in it. Don't lament in it. But rather use it as a catalyst for some type of personalistic growth. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, good, fine. Amar Rava, Schora, Amar Rav Huna. Kol shekalish baruch hu chaves bo, medako b'yisurin. The more Hashem loves you, the more He afflicts you. Now, this isn't exactly like the best-selling line for Judaism, right? The more He loves you, the more He punishes you. So we'll say, but this is on Shneimar. Look at the rest of Shneimar. V'Hashem chafetz dako achali yachal afilu lo kibla me'aba. So we'll say, so what this means is as follows, and this can be understood on two levels. Number one, as you just mentioned before, that suffering does have a cathartic effect on the individual, allowing the individual to be purged of all of their negativity. That's one. And I will say, number two, yeah, that's really the idea. That's, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you, sometimes it causes you to suffer, also because sometimes when a person is able to maintain their emunah even in the midst of suffering, they inspire other people as well. So sometimes Rabbi says, Hashem subjects me to circumstances not because per se I deserve it or I did something, but because either, again, it's the opportunity for me to be purged of negativity or for the opportunity for me to potentially inspire others through my behavior. But the Gemara says, Yachal afilu lo kibla me'ava. Now this is only if you accept the suffering of love. Tamalomar im tasim asham nafsho, ma asham ladas afisron das. Just like a carbon has to be offered up with intent, so too suffering only works also if a person has the intent to accept them. Vim kiblam maschar. And I will say, if a person finds themselves beset by suffering and they accept it, they accept that it is Shema Kadosh Baruch Hu, I accept this as the will of God. What is your reward? Yira zera ya'arich yamim. Ultimately, again, offspring and longevity. Offspring and longevity. V'lo od elo shetalmudom is kaim biyado. Not only that, we'll say, but you'll be able to always retain your learning. Shnei amar v'chafetz Hashem biyado yitzlach. So we'll say, so really an incredible idea. So we'll say, it's fascinating. So what's the reward for accepting suffering with love? So number one, ultimately, again, that a person will have offspring and that offspring will enjoy longevity. Now, you have to understand, whenever we speak about longevity in Psukim, longevity is not necessarily measured or understood as like length of days. It could also be indicative of quality of days. So we'll say, saying something so profound. What's the greatest chinuch? With this we'll stop. But what's the greatest chinuch that we give our children? We'll say the greatest chinuch is how to deal with adversity. Okay, it's the biggest thing. Whether it's what you're like after you have a bad day at work, and how do you come home after a bad day of work, or when you suffer a setback, how do you deal with it? So we teach our children how to deal with adversity. If I model the right kind of behavior for how to deal with adversity to my children, I have armed my children with a powerful life tool. And what I've done is, I've given them arichos yomim. I've given them, so to speak, longevity. Not only that, says the Gemara, what does it mean when it says your learning is sustained in your hand? What does that mean? So the Gemara says, so what that means is, if you're able to accept suffering with love, then that cements your relationship with Hashem. That's what's understood as your learning is maintained and sustained. That represents a heightened level of connection and relationship. So the Gemara says, fine. We'll stop over. It started at 9:30. We'll stop over for tonight. Again, a long daf. Tomorrow's a little bit shorter. We'll be okay at some point. You know what I'm saying? Shkoyach. I think is everyone here on the WhatsApp chat? Yeah? No? Josh? Andre? Okay, so you know what?